Hi, this is Hunt Lyman. I'm Academic Dean at the Hill School, and in this session I'd like to talk about one of our most important programs, Independent Reading. I want to review what that program is and why it's important, particularly some research that supports this program. But I want to start from a quote from literature. In the 8th grade every year we read To Kill a Mockingbird, and there's a passage in which Scout Finch, who's 8 years old, talks about reading. She says, "Now that I was compelled to think about it, reading was something that just came to me, as learning to achieve 2 bows from the snarl of shoelaces. Until I feared I would lose it, I never loved to read. One does not love breathing." Now, few children learn to read this effortlessly, but this does characterize, I think, some ways that we want children to feel about reading, that it's just a basic, integral part of their life, something that they always remember as engaging in. So the primary goal of independent reading instruction is to develop lifelong independent readers. We want children to be reading every day, to see reading as something that they do as a basic part of any choice that they make. We want them to really feel that reading is basic and fundamental to their lives. These are some of the most important principles of our independent reading. First of all, we do provide adult supervision, but we think it's essential that children have substantial choice in the books that they are reading. Second, the emphasis is on fluency. Nobody should be reading books that are so hard that they're regularly struggling with vocabulary on a page-by-page basis, or where the sentence constructions are such that they find themselves floundering. Third, we believe in regular practice. We think that students should be reading silently every day. For students who are very young, we strongly encourage parents to spend time every day reading to their children. Teachers also read with students. They model reading. They show students that adults also read on a regular basis. Students log their books and respond in a variety of ways through literacy letters, conferences, recommendations, and reactions. And we think independent reading is so important that in K through 3, the major nightly homework is free reading. And in 4th through 8th grade, the only weekend assignment is free reading. So we take a pretty big chunk of our curriculum and dedicate it to independent reading. When do children develop a reading habit? Well, from Leslie Morrow's article on promoting vocabulary, says schools should deliberately and thoughtfully attract children to reading through the early elementary years so that voluntary reading may become a lifelong habit. Now, why? Why is this so important? Well, there are a variety of reasons. In How Language is Learned, Jane Keel points out that reading is the most important element in developing many basic verbal skills, including vocabulary, grammar, and spelling. For many children, spelling is far more effectively developed through regular reading than through spelling drill or spelling rules. But it's not surprising that children who are exposed to a great number of words tend to develop a much better vocabulary, and also developing syntactical possibilities, understanding how language works, which is basic for grammar. All of those things happen primarily with experience in reading. Steve Gardner, in his article on other benefits of free reading, children who have demonstrated a voluntary interest in books were not only rated to have better work habits, social and emotional development, language structure, and overall school performance, but also these children scored significantly higher on standardized reading tests. In many ways, if the goal is to help children, among other things, do well on standardized testing, free reading is one of the best ways to accomplish that. Children who score in the top % of standardized reading tests read 5 times as much as children who score in the average range. And a big part of this has to do with how much time is invested. If you invest an hour a day, that's going to do a lot more than just investing a small amount. It's important to practice every day, and to practice at a level of challenge that's appropriate. The research summary by Stephen Krashen in his book on this subject states it really very clearly. The conclusion we can draw from these findings can be stated easily. Reading is a powerful means of developing literacy, of developing reading comprehension ability, writing style, vocabulary, grammar, and spelling. But The research also supports the conclusion that reading is the only way that we become good readers, that we develop a good writing style and adequate vocabulary, advanced grammar, and to become good spellers. This has been very much my experience in teaching high school. Students who have not spent a certain amount of time reading, who have not logged the reading miles, are going to have a much harder time in high school. In fact, in my experience, children who have not spent time dripping milk and cereal on their books in the morning, who have not had the experience of wanting to stay up and read under the covers with a flashlight, find it very difficult to read in high school. They just haven't logged enough miles. And reading in high school tends to be mostly assigned. And so if you haven't had that experience with free choice, if you haven't had lots of experience with the written word, when you're cutting your teeth on the scarlet letter, it is very difficult and in some cases impossible. Students who struggle in high school and ask me what they really need to do to develop the verbal fluency that they need to do well, the answer that I've given them is they need to build a time machine and go back to 4th and 5th grade and log a lot of time reading. In many ways, parents are essential for us to support our reading program. We really count on parents to help us in a variety of ways. First of all, help your child to organize weekend time. Even if there's a lot going on, even if you're traveling, make sure your child is packing a book and is at least spending some time. You can help by providing a quiet place for reading, that a child understands this is the place that we go in our home where we can be quiet, we can read. Model reading at home. Read in front of your child. Read with your child. Kids get a tremendous amount of information about how people really behave by looking at adults. And of course, you're the most important adult in your child's life. So if you want your child to read, you really need to read yourself. Talk about books. See what a child understands. See what your child is interested in. Let your child know the kinds of things that you're reading. Set the expectation in your house that a habit of reading takes place on a daily basis. And don't let that go in the summer. Between school years, remember the kids need to keep reading. They need to continue to have that experience. And probably the most important principle is to turn off the television. And that really is not just television. It's all screens. It's video games. It's computers, and I know as well as anyone that computers can provide tremendous insight for kids. They can be wonderful learning tools. But I think it's also essential that kids spend time with books, that they actually are finding that miraculous experience of finding that someone can communicate their thoughts through black marks on white pieces of paper, and that with that you can talk to people you've never met, in some cases people who have been dead for generations. Children all need to have that experience to be successful in school, and it's one of our primary goals is that by the time children graduate, that they see reading has been an integral part of their life. Thank you.